first question that I have is, it goes for both of you. I don't know if Rachel you want to start, but why this project?
It's interesting, but it's like it's the resilience that Clarissa had, and like I really felt like her story deserved to be out in the world. And I think for me, I mean, I've been reading for years and not finding the thing that I felt like was worthy of. You give so much of yourself when you make a movie. It's time. I mean, in this case, it's a lot of time, but it's time away from your loved ones. It's everything. And so to champion it, I think for me, I believed in it, and I felt like it was sort of deserving of it, if that makes sense. And then obviously there are things I saw of myself just from like being a cinematographer, a female cinematographer. That's obviously the exception to the rule, right? And it's not enough just to be a good shooter. We're sort of looked at differently, and so that was something that I saw. I guess I reckon it was relatable in some way, but really it was just Clarissa's story deserved to be out there.
For me, as an actor, you are always on audition. So it was one of those things where it was kind of sent to me, and I could only hope for the best. I knew it was amazing people behind it, and you can only dream of being a part of something with people like this, where that not only are they great, but they really, really care, and are going to take really good care of the story. And I think a story like this needs to be taken care of in the right way with the right people. And yeah, I think I went into the audition with not high expectations for myself at all. And I'm just really thankful that Rachel saw something in me, Francine saw something in me. And yeah, I can't thank them enough, because, it's already pretty tough out there. And I think naturally I thought they'd want somebody that was like this big A-lister actress, and I wasn't that. So yeah, I went into it with just the best that I could.
Which is incredibly humble, because she destroyed the audition. Like, she made herself so undeniable in the audition. I mean, among the various scenes, but like the scene you saw in the hallway, like she brought that level of intensity, and it was just like Francine and my jaws hit the floor. And like, I mean, that was all you.
Thanks, Rach.
I mean, when did you guys roll cameras on this thing? I don't know if folks know the full story behind the movie, but take
the first time or the second time?
I mean,
Two different times.
I mean, there's some filmmakers in here, I imagine. Filmmakers. Yeah, I mean, I'm executives, film lovers. Anybody? Okay, I'm not sure. I'm sure they'll let us know.
It's interesting in retrospect. Like we got up and running pretty fast, all things considered, for Hollywood, right? Like from the time I was hired to the time we were shooting was actually unusually fast. But then we got caught in a pandemic, and we had shot 2 days. We had cameras and trucks. We had sets built out. We were kind of the ones holding the bags, with not enough footage that you just came back to finish it, because it was already 80% done. And it was kind of, it was just sort of wrong time, wrong place by times a world pandemic. So then it was years before we got going again. And, what I will say on the far other side of it is, in those years, like among other things, I got to kind of hone my skills as a director, mostly in episodic, but like Mandalorian, Morning Show, all of these episodes I did during the pandemic. So I came back, I think, with a little more know-how and a lot more confidence. And almost more importantly, Ryan got to train a second time, which I think you can speak to. But, to get 3 months of intensive training, it's a lot, but it's probably wasn't enough. And then to get a full another 3 months of intensive training, I'll let you speak to that.
Yeah, I mean, and also in the middle of us doing it the first time and the second time, it was not going to happen at one point. We were with Universal, and it got completely dropped. And I think me and Rachel felt that, like, hard on the phone. I could tell that she was on the verge of tears. I was trying to hold back my tears of her knowing that I was crying on the phone. It was, it was really scary, You don't get projects like these. So it was coming back the second time. Like Rachel said, I had a mindset that made me not take it for granted even more. and I just wanted to go harder, and I fell into it even more, and I'm so thankful for that time. Looking back, during it was like the worst thing ever, but looking back, it was something that mentally, physically, spiritually, I needed, and I'm really thankful for. So,
Thanks for sharing that. What were you guys' biggest fears, like going into the project? Rachel, I'll start with you. And what did you do to overcome them? Because obviously you did, but.
I mean, I think it changed. I actually do think that the first time I was a little scared to occupy the director's seat. Like, that was so new for me. I'd done a little bit of episodic years ago, and then I'd kind of closed that door because I knew I still had a Mudbound and a Black Panther in me, and thank God I did. But then this was really kind of my first back at bat, and I think I was probably nervous about it. And by the second time, I wasn't, so that really helped. Actually making the movie was kind of amazing, and the chemistry that you guys saw on the screen with Ryan and Brian, like, you felt that on set pretty much instantaneously. So, like, that was all actually just incredible and lovely.
I mean, I think for me, this entire thing was pretty scary for me. I think since the beginning, I knew how much of a challenge it would be, which excited me, and I really, really wanted that, and, you know, knew that it would be something that not only have I never seen myself step into, but anyone else that's ever seen me, you know, has never seen me in that way either. So I just knew it'd be scary. It was me completely being vulnerable and stripping myself of any makeup or hair or anything, and how I'm normally perceived, you know. I knew that would be something new for me, and that excited me, but it scared me. It scared me a lot. And, you know, Clarissa is also a person who, if she is not happy, she will say it. So I really wanted to please her as well. That was a really big part. I thought of her every single day on set. So to finally get her approval was everything. So.
Yeah, just to add to that, like, that's a good point. Like, I was scared to death of just wanting to get it right. I mean, this is not just based on, like, real people. It's based on real people who are very much still alive and well, and, you know, have opinions, and it's their life. Like, just wanted to make sure that we did justice to it. So that actually, I'd like to change my answer.
And how did you overcome those? How did you overcome those fears, Ryan? Like what were the steps that you took?
I think, honestly, piggybacking a little off of what I said about the pandemic kind of kicking in too, I think helped me a lot, because it changed my perspective on the entire thing. It meant a lot more to me, and I think that, you know, fear kind of has to go out the window a little bit when you know that you have a duty, essentially. And Clarissa, like I said, was just on the top of my mind, and I knew that this story was way, way too important, and it was way bigger than me, and I needed to completely fall into it for her, because it deserves it, she deserves it, and she deserves for this to be told and for people to know more about her. So I think going in more with that mindset and digging a little deeper, it helped me overcome the fear a little more. Yeah.
That's great. Were there any professional experiences that you had in the past that you pulled from, you know, in terms of making this project, and were there any personal experiences that you pulled from in terms of making the project?
I mean, I'm looking at him. I definitely, for me, like, I really tried to take all the things that I had seen work, and that was a lot from you, Ryan Coogler, and then also the things that I had seen not work, and you know.
Also from me.
Yeah, no, not also from you. And let that inform the way that I direct. You know, one of the things that Ryan did that I thought was kind of unusual compared to many of the directors I work with is he was always on set, like right there, just out of the eye line of the actor, sometimes not even looking at the monitor, but just like so present for them and for the performance. And so that was certainly something that I try to do when I direct as well. I mean, fortunately, I also operate, so sometimes I can just do it from behind the camera. But even when I'm not operating, I'm on a knee in the room, and I'm not around the corner at a monitor. That's one of many things I've learned from you.
So moving outside of you guys yourselves, you had a chance to work with some great collaborators on this project. I'm thinking about specifically you guys' writer-producer, Barry Jenkins, your co-star, Brian Tyree Henry. Rach, what was it like working with Barry?
I mean, you could not ask for, like, he's a dream, and he's also a legend, and to respect the people that you are working with is everything, right? And so for me to have, obviously, the writing on the page, which is, I mean, it doesn't get better than Barry Jenkins, but also whenever I, was at a loss for something or needed advice on, I mean, like who better to call than the best, right? So I think, first feature, Barry Jenkins as your writer-producer, like I truly got lucky. Yeah.
And Ryan, what was it like working with Brian?
Oh, man. It was literally incredible, and I continuously say that I don't think I could have done it without him. I think that he was such an amazing leader on set and looked at me as an equal, which I really, really appreciated going into something like this where I, can easily feel pretty small. And with Rachel as well, like you guys both created such a safe space for me. And Brian has literally become like my brother, and I'm just really thankful for him and him cheering me on throughout the entire process and making sure that I believed in myself when it was probably clear that I wasn't in that mindset. And he kind of brought me back to life whenever I needed it. And it was just incredible to learn from him and have a scene partner like him. He is one of the best. So it was a dream.
Now, we had a point like in I think definitely national sports or maybe even international where certain women's sports are being looked at with a renown, with renewed vigor. I think a lot of conversation about compensation parity across genders. What's it like to be putting this film out at this time? I mean, it seems like Clarissa was at the forefront of that conversation.
I mean, she really was, and again, still hasn't really gotten her due. So hopefully, the film will put her on the map there because, this was 10 years ago. I think it's also a testament to like sometimes maybe things happen for a reason. Like Ryan and I have been holding hands for 2 years, 2 years, and then another couple years, like a long time, and then yet somehow our film is coming out at the right time for this film. Which is quite like miraculous, I guess. But it's exciting to like amplify a conversation that's happening already and do it with a voice who's been in it for a long time.
Yeah, no, I just completely agree with that. I think it's coming out at the coolest time ever. I hope that more people pay attention to the story, too, because of the time that it's coming out. People seem to be more open to, I guess, women's sports and seeing that there's excitement in that. So I hope that just helps her story reach even more than it normally would. So,
what was Clarissa's feedback? Can y'all take us to her first time watching the film? And what did she say?
I don't think I've ever been more nervous in my life. And as you guys can tell, I get nervous pretty easily. So this was like a whole other level. I was tasked with screening it for her by myself. And I may have had a drink or two to make sure I could handle it.
Where was the screening?
It was at MGM.
Okay.
It was her and her publicist. And I had a phone with me. It's like one of those things where you just kind of like have this gut instinct. And the second I was like, oh, she actually really loved it. Like I was scared. I was scared because it's Clarissa and she's got opinions, but also like, I mean, it's got to be so crazy to like for anybody to see their life, performed by another human being, to see their mom played by another actress. Like, I can't even imagine what that experience is like. And so then when I was like, I think she was really into it. Like I asked if I could take a video, and I have it. And I've never seen her speechless before in my life, and like she was speechless at one point. But she was really moved, and it was like watching. She was actually, I think, almost like, oh shit, I did that. Like watching her own life back and kind of reliving how much she went through to get to where she is now. Because I think, now she still is. We still have a lot to do to amplify her story and her voice, but like. It's been a minute since she was like the 16-year-old self, or her 6-year-old self. And so to see that again, she was really moved by it and she was blown away, but she could not believe that Ryan boxed as well as Ryan boxed. She was like...
Yeah, she was very happy with the boxing. And I was like, woo! But yes, it meant everything. Seeing her cry was just everything, so...
What do you want people to take away from this movie? If you could write the script on what folks take home after spending this time watching.
There's so much that you can take away. I think the obvious one is her story being so inspiring and knowing that you can overcome so many things, no matter what, no matter how bad it is, how dark it can be. If you believe in yourself as confidently and as much as she did, you can overcome these things and achieve the things that you were put on this earth to do. And I think Clarissa herself is just a walking testament to that and exudes that every single day. And I would love if people took away from it believing in themselves a bit more, because I know I did just by knowing her, playing her. It made me believe in myself a lot more, and I think that that's one of the most beautiful things that you can walk away from a film like this and seeing it, just that strength that you can have and build as well. So I think that that's maybe the top thing that I would want people to take away, just that feeling of inspiration. So,
I mean, I think you said a lot of what I would have said as well. I guess maybe the only thing I would add or two things is, I mean, I think we may, I pray we're not, but like if we do hit some dark times, like it's kind of, again, the resilience to kind of pick yourself back up. Like not just, overcoming to get to the top, but then sometimes you get knocked back again and kind of the will to keep going. And I guess kind of alongside that, this idea that, ultimately when she goes back to boxing, it's not for the medals or for the money. It's really about sort of choosing the journey over the destination. So I think that's something that we can all hopefully take from this as well.